Hi, I'm here at Denver Beer Co. having a lovely afternoon beverage with my friend and financial advisor partner, Laura Olmedo. Big life transitions, downsizing, relocating, divorce, all the big D's can feel overwhelming. And so I'm here with Laura today, who's going to talk to me about how to manage these high stress moments in the financial world. Thanks for joining me for some beverages today.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy.
Tell us a little bit about who you help and just what you specialize in.
Sure. So I help individuals, families, and small business owners when it comes to all types of financial planning. So that can be investment planning, retirement planning, or insurance planning. Those are kind of the big three. And so I'm kind of a generalist in that area, in that I don't necessarily specialize, but I do have 25 years experience in this arena.
You're only 25 years old.
I know. Isn't that great?
So when someone is going through a major life transition, just the things we talked about just before, if they're a senior, maybe downsizing or what I call right sizing, going through divorce, a big move, what are some, as an example of something that's financially happening behind the scenes?
I'll give an example of a client that I recently acquired from a referral. So this client, she recently got divorced and she relied on her spouse to really do all the finances. And
that a lot.
When she got divorced, she was a little bit underwater. You know, she didn't know what her retirement accounts were. She didn't know where her cash savings was, where she was saving, and where she should be saving. She didn't know the names of the retirement accounts. So we really had to start at kind of square one and help her identify, what accounts does she have and really inventory those and contact each of those providers to see if she can get a current account statement and where she's saving into those accounts. So it's really kind of taking a big step back to take a large inventory of what we have when those types of transitions happen.
So it sounds like something very emotional for sure. You're taking steps back in life. So what type of emotions are you kind of noticing with a client in this situation? And how are you kind of managing that, if you will?
Yeah, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questions. So my process, I just let the client talk, and get a lot of their fears and emotions out. And then I ask them what's really important to them. What are they trying to accomplish? What are their goals? What are their objectives? And then I help them prioritize those and, just simply writing them down and having a timeline to each of those goals and objectives. And then based on that, we can figure out, okay, based on where your accounts are at, are they making sense for the goals and objectives that you want to accomplish?
I love that. So you're listening, actively listening, and then I guess reiterating the plan back to the client and then, taking action.
Yes.
So, is there a common pattern that you see with clients going through these transitions that ends up costing them? Like, is there something that maybe a choice that they make or something that you see more commonly that ends up costing them just more long term?
Yeah, sometimes in those types of transitions, I'll just focus on divorces, for example. They may get half or whatever of their former spouse's 401k or retirement plan or other type of an account. They may be tempted to cash it out, and get an influx of cash to pay bills or to, sustain themselves financially, which that can be a little challenging from a tax perspective because they may get into a higher tax bracket by cashing out one of those retirement plans. And they get hit usually by a 10% IRS penalty. So you really need to take a very careful inventory of what you have and figure out what your priorities are before you make any rash decisions.
Right.
And that's what I tend to see is panic mode.
Panic. Yes.
I need money. I need to cash out my 401k to get money. And that's where we kind of have a sit down and talk about that.
Right. Well, and you have access to these funds. So you think, well, let's take care of everything all at once, where the tax implications or the repercussions further down the road could be more harmful than helpful. So, understood. What's one strategic move people don't think about that you can share that makes a big difference?
Yeah. I'll go back to taxes. So
yay, taxes.
most people tend to save in what are called pre-tax retirement accounts, like a 401k, 403b, 457, or IRA, But the challenge there is that's all going to be taxed when you pull the money out in retirement. And so what I teach people is making sure that you have control. You have control over your money, both today, but also in retirement, and set up 3 different accounts. Make sure that you have a tax advantage account, a tax deferred account, and a tax never account.
Okay.
So therefore, depending on where taxes go, higher or lower, that you are always in control.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, we all love talking about taxes, but it sounds like having different levels of conversations is super helpful. So especially in these emotional situations where people might be panicking and they don't necessarily know where to allocate everything.
Exactly.
So how does this is a collaborative type of series. So what does a collaboration look like between yourself as a financial advisor and potentially myself as a real estate professional and an attorney? So what does that kind of look like in a perfect world for you?
Sure. Well, some of my clients tend to want to buy additional real estate property. So I want to work with a competent real estate provider.
I hope that's me.
Yeah. A realtor who knows the client's situation, knows what their goals and objectives are. And how I can come in is, with the client's permission, is talking about what savings they may have for a down payment, where they should pull that from, where they shouldn't pull it from, and then cash flow too. So, usually if somebody's buying a second or third property, they're going to have maybe a lull in their cash flow because maybe their rental is not coming in quite away, very quickly. And so I work with the client and the realtor to make sure that there's a plan, behind that, before they make that large move. And then from attorneys, I think about estate planning attorneys. So we want to make sure that these multiple properties are held in an LLC or held in maybe a trust or some type of vehicle where all of the protection is there for the client in the event that something were to happen, that their real estate and their other assets are protected.
That's great advice, because I see that all the time where someone's purchasing an investment property and maybe their ducks aren't in a row if they're purchasing with a partner rather than a spouse, let's say, or whatever that situation looks like. So why is it risky when these professionals aren't aligned? Is there something you can think of that has been a big red flag when kind of everyone's in there or siloed and they don't have or isn't a collaborative approach?
Yeah, I mean, the client could lose a lot of money, thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars by just making maybe the decision that they thought was right, but without checking with a, confident attorney or a confident realtor or financial advisor that they may cost them a lot of money. So I've seen that happen and certainly don't want that to happen to anybody.
We don't want you to lose money. No. None of us want to lose money. So if someone's in the middle of one of these big transitions and feeling overwhelmed, just what would be the one tidbit or one kind of nugget you'd want them to remember or to be reminded of?
Yeah. I always look at things objectively and systematically. And so have a plan, whether that plan is, a Excel spreadsheet or a Word document, or something even as easy as that, where you're listing all of your assets, you're listing all of your expenses, all of your income. Those are in all of your liabilities. And we work with clients and we give them a software to help them with that. That makes it really easy for them. We kind of go through different scenarios in that software, like what if scenarios, etc. What if your income were to stop, or what if cash flow were to decrease by 50%? Those types of scenarios. But at least, have something on paper, whether it's a software or whether it's, pen and paper, where you can kind of see everything all in one place. I think that's a really great way to get started.
Yeah. Have a plan and a backup plan and another backup plan.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So just gonna rapid fire, just some things to get to know Laura. If you could only eat one type of food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Italian.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were talking about Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any pasta, pizza, or just whatever?
I love chicken parmesan.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. It's not good on my cholesterol level, but, it tastes so good. I make a really killer one.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I do.
Okay. Well, you have to invite me over
I will.
sometime. All right. Window or aisle seat?
Window.
Window. Okay. I'm on the aisle. I have to get up quite a bit. So
No,
that's
I
okay.
sit and stay and watch a movie.
Okay. What's one habit that keeps you grounded during stressful weeks?
Working out. So I work out at my favorite gym, F45.
Yes, okay.
About 3 to 5 times a week. 45 minutes, you're in and out, you're done, and it's very structured.
Yep. No phone, no
Nope.
distractions, just
Just do
Laura
it.
time. Yep. I love that. Do you have a book that's influenced you or something you're reading or a podcast or just something that's been super influential recently?
Influential, I would say no, but when I read, it's more like I read a lot for just my own business, and I do a lot of that throughout the week. And so I like to read other stuff more for fun. So like John Grisham books is what I love. And
Yeah.
and somehow my husband figured that out and he got me one for Valentine's Day.
Aww.
I plan to read, when I'm on vacation. So,
Which one?
it's a brand new one that he just wrote. I think it's called The Lawyer. I want to say it's something really plain.
Yes. Yeah. I think, yeah.
I think it's called The Lawyer.
And then finally, since this is our Wingwomen Wingman series, who has been a wingman or wingwoman in your life?
The woman who hired me on when I changed financial advisory practices about 6 years ago, her name is Joy Evadizian. So she hired me because I was in a situation that was kind of not a good one for myself and my clients. She brought me into a firm, very female-centric, really partner-centric too. Lots of great people and lots of resources for my clients, and
Love that.
I'll be forever grateful to her.
So just a badass lady. It's just
Big time.
walk you through life.
B, capital A. Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have. So Laura Olmedo, and I'm Tracy. She's my financial advisor, Wingwoman. Good to see you all.
Thanks, everyone.